Hello, I'm Michele Weir, and this is MichMusic Now. Today we're talking about dissonance in the jazz choir. Specifically, we're talking about is dissonance a friend or a foe? That is the question that is on the table today. I'm going to give you an answer to that in about a minute, but let me show you what specifically we're going to look at today. Two types of instances where dissonance is very prevalent in vocal jazz. First three chords show the first type, half step between adjacent notes. And the second type of common dissonance is when there's a major seventh between, it could be adjacent notes or non-adjacent notes, like here and here. And we'll talk a little bit about the nature of these, hear what they sound like, and a couple of tips about how to manage them so the choir sings them beautifully and with joy and peace and love. So first, I have a fancy PDF download for this class, so I hope you get this. It's on my YouTube channel, MichMusic Michele Weir. Free download. You might want to get it like first before you watch the class so you can follow along, and down here are some of the tips about how to sing these types of voicings. So let's get to the first question at hand. Dissonance, friend or foe? And the answer is yes, it's both actually. It's a friend and a foe. I mean, it's kind of a foe because it's a challenge, right? It's like, you know, it doesn't always make our life easier to have a lot of crunchy chords, and for a less experienced, you know, jazz choir, it can be really, really difficult actually to sing those. It could take out rehearsal time and just be kind of a you know, an exercise in you know, futility. Like, why don't I just sing some triadic music? But on the other hand, why do we do jazz at all? We like this, don't we? I mean, I do. You do too. If we like funky music, you know, bluesy music, funky music, jazzy music, poignant music, you know, we get these nice little transparent chords sometimes too. Lots and lots of dissonance, and it's a beautiful thing. So the bottom line is, yes, we like it. It's a friend. Let's figure out how to handle it. So the first type of dissonance we're going to talk about is the half step between adjacent notes. So we have it here in this C minor 9 chord. Notice it's a rootless voicing. It's a clustery kind of voicing. Everything's in close position, and maybe you have a bass player that's playing the root, but we don't see the root in the chord. There's our chord. We can make that less dissonance. If I were arranging this, I could make this a C. Right? We have the same chord, but it doesn't have the magic of that chord. We like the dissonance. The dissonance is good. The alto is on the flat third, and the tenor is on the ninth. I don't know, you know, in my view, they could probably be pretty equal in volume, and you're going to come out pretty well. I don't think that, I mean, that third could be just a teeny pinch more strong perhaps, but it's in a good range for both parts, and I think it's going to sound like a good solid fat voicing if everybody sings around the same volume. General rules, no vibrato. Doesn't really work with this kind of half-step dissonance, and a good clear tone. Later on with these voicings, we want a clear tone bordering on brassy bright. So, but first, let's just call it, you know, clear. Here's another half-step voicing. This one does have the root in it, and it's just a nice, pretty major 7 chord. Basically, we just need people to have independence to hold their note, and that can come with, partly at least, with education, which I'll talk about in a couple of minutes. But when people know what they're singing, like, oh, I'm singing the root and somebody else is singing that 7th right below me, you know, I'm not going to let them bump me off my part. Just that little bit of awareness can really help things. Here's another one. This is an open voicing, but it's still got the half step in the middle. You know, so the same kind of deal. Clear, confident, you know, and independent sensibility where, you know, I can hold my note against this other, you know, part that's trying to bump me off the note. And I'll talk in a minute about things you could do in the beginning of the class, the beginning of rehearsal for warm-ups and so on, especially in the beginning of the school year if you teach at school. That could be super, super helpful for the mind, for the ear, for the voice in terms of singing these chords. Okay, just when you thought those were tricky, wait till you get to these three. We're here. Okay, so this one, major 7 chord, notice the bottom 2 notes. You know, it's a really, really beautiful chord. As a matter of fact, it's the first chord of A Nightingale Sang in Berkeley Square. Same voicing, different key. That's up here, but anyway, it's a really pretty voicing, but look. That's tricky for them to tune, the men. It's always the men. Specifically, it's always the bass that has the biggest challenge. We gotta love our basses. We gotta just like thank them every day, you know, just pray to them, for them, their well-being, because, you know, they've got the hardest job. So the tendency in this voicing is going to be for the bass to want to go down and make a consonant octave with the tenor. But basses, don't do it. Don't go there. You're going to be like, you know, and you'd think, hey, the bass has the root. How hard is that? Well, it's a little tricky when somebody's up here on this note. So, again, education of the bass is understanding what they're singing, understanding the tendency to want to fall down to make the consonant octave, and then the getting accustomed to the sound of the dissonance by hearing recordings and so on. It's really good. It's a good thing to do. This next one, these two are my favorite. They're the most evil, for sure, okay? And they're really cool. Here's the New York Voices All Blues voicing. If you know that arrangement, you know, the first chords are wall-to-wall sharp 9 chords, and we have to thank our dear friend Peter Eldridge, the bass singer that was probably, I believe, singing the thirds on all those chords. I can't remember what it is exactly. Something like, right? I can't remember, but anyway, we have a major third, a flat 7, and that is an F dominant 7 chord. 3rd and 7th, very important notes for to define your chord voicing. And here's the fun stuff. Soprano has a 5th, and the alto has the sharp 9. I know, it looks like a flat 3rd, but we just wrote it that way because we're in a flats context right here. So, you know, soprano, boop, 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 boop. That's not hard. I could do that. Okay, here's the alto. Boop, 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 boop. That's easy. Here's a tenor. Boop, 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 boop. No problem. And then we have the bass note. Ba, 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 ba. Woo! That is mighty tricky. And you know what's going to happen, again, is the bass is going to tend to drift down a half step to be a consonant octave. So you're going to get, and that is not the chord you want. You want that, not that, in a big way. So, you know, and it's ironic because it's the 3rd. Should be easy, right? But it's tricky against that darn alto. Troublemaker, those altos. Last chord here, very, very similar chord. This also is the 7th and the 3rd of the chord, and then the altos have the 13, sopranos have the root. And again, we need brassiness in the men. Notice that the bass is again Hello, basses. I'm sorry the world is this way. It's not fair to you for sure, but oh well, that's, we're all born into what we're born into, I guess. So basses, again, have the problem of having a major seventh above them. How hard is that? Not hard at all for sopranos. Become a bass. That was terrible. Let me try it again. Wow. It takes a pretty good ear to be able to handle that. So now let's talk even a little more about strategies, okay? So what you can do is integrate in some strategic warm-ups into your rehearsals, where in the beginning, especially in the beginning of the year, when you are forming habits and you're, doing extra work on learning, to read well and to have ear training and so on, you can integrate in some work on chord types so people begin to know about those. For example, 1, 3, 5, 7, 5, 3, 1, 1, 3, 5, flat 7, 5, 3, 1, minor 7, 1 flat 3, 5, flat 7, 5, flat 3, 1, minor 7, flat 5, 1 flat 3, flat 5, flat 7, flat 5, flat 3, 1, fully diminished 1 flat 3, flat 5, double flat 7, flat 5, flat 3, 1. Then you can do some fun things like say, hey everybody, here's a note. Basses, why don't you sing the root? Tenors, you sing the 7. Altos, you sing the 3. Sopranos, you sing the 5 on ah. Go. I used to do that with my group at Cal State Long Beach many years ago, and I'd walk in sometimes and I'd go, men in 3 parts. Root, major 3rd, flat 7. Women in 3 parts, 9, sharp 11, 13. Ah. And then have them sing it. And they definitely could do it. And then, gosh, it got much more than their ear going. It got their mind going, their body going. They could feel it, they could tune it, they could hear it. It was really good practice for them, I think. So there you go, education. And then talking about, hey, where are these half steps? And that's where the next step comes in, and that is prep. So you can take your vocal jazz literature and just go through. You do it first, if you're the director, and figure out where all the tricky dissonances are. And they're 99% of the time they're going to be like this. The only other real common one would be a cluster, which we do hear in a lot of charts these days. Hello, Carrie Marsh. And they're beautiful. And that's a different kind of dissonance, but this is the really tricky one, and it's more biting. So just circle those places in your music and then go over it with the singers in rehearsal. It's well worth your time. Anyway, it's comforting to know that it's not just that, oh my gosh, we'll never learn how to sing these. It's only at measure 6 on beat 3. And then it's also at measure 17 and 18 on beat 4 and the end of 4, and then couple that with them understanding, oh yeah, there's the 5th, there's the 3rd, there's the 9th, which is like the 2nd. Here's the 7th. Oh yeah, it's the alto and the tenor that have it right here, and, etc. Another just general tip is to hear harmonically. You want people who are singers and are probably normally accustomed to hearing melodically, thinking melodically, being melodic by nature, because we grow up singing songs for the most part. You want them to just, start to be harmonic and think harmonically. So again, that occasional stopping and going, hey, you guys, take a look at measure 56 here, beat 4. What kind of chord is that? That's right, it's a major 7. Where's the dissonance? Blah, blah, blah. And, and couple that with the warm-ups that you do in the beginning of the year or whatever, or the beginning of your rehearsals. Pretty soon people will start to listen differently. They'll listen harmonically. So we're listening this way, and then we're also listening this way. And that makes for a good choir. So I hope that was helpful to you. I would love to hear from you always on YouTube or at the MichMusic Network Facebook group. Don't forget to get your PDF download on YouTube while you're there. Thank you for subscribing. If there was one thing that you could do to help support these classes, it would be to subscribe, because the more subscribers there are, the more YouTube supports that class and they show it to more people in the world, then it gets even more far-reaching. Thank you for that. And yeah, I look forward to hearing about how things are going. Do feel free to drop me a note anytime and tell me what you're interested in and tell me what's working or what's not working. Take care. See you next time.